Hi, everyone. Welcome. I know it takes a second for everyone's audio to kick in. In the meantime, as you're logging in, I'm going to pull up my slides and get us started today. This is the Maine virtual community talks event hosted through the New England PTTC with a number of our community partners. So thank you for joining us today. I'm going to make a couple of quick logistics notes before we get started and then hand things over to our main event for the day. This event is, as I just said, hosted through the New England Prevention Technology Transfer Center. We are funded by SAMHSA at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services as part of a cooperative agreement. The contents expressed in these webinars are those of the authors and moderators and not necessarily the official views of SAMHSA or the U.S. government. And just a couple notes about who we are at the Prevention Technology Transfer Center Network. The New England PTTC translates prevention science into trainings and technical assistance products to guide the prevention workforce in adopting and implementing prevention science in their communities. We're one of 10 regional centers, 10 regional centers and 2 national focus area centers around the country, in addition to our coordinating office providing these services. And we provide a wide range of different types of services, from newsletters and updates, in-person trainings, hopefully, again, one of these days soon, live and recorded webinars, online courses, tailored technical assistance on request, along with development of other resources and tools. So a wide variety of services. And my last note, at the PTTC network, we use affirming language to promote the application of evidence-based and culturally informed practices. The use of affirming language inspires hope. Words have power. So we try to use people-first language and other affirming practices. And we invite you to do the same in your own work. I think that's it for my slides. A couple of other just webinar notes. I do have the live transcript enabled. So you may see those subtitles at the bottom of your screen. If you want to toggle those on or off, there should be a little CC closed captioning button in your Zoom toolbar that you can adjust those for yourself. And we are also recording this today so that we can show it to people who may not be able to join us today. So the recording is already in progress. And I am now going to stop sharing my screen and hand it over to Scott, the PTTC director, New England PTTC director, to introduce why we're all here today and our next speaker.
Great. Thanks, Kristen. I want to welcome everyone to our event this afternoon. This has been a project we've been working on for a few months now. I think we started back in the spring working on this Communities Talk. And if you're not familiar with the Communities Talk program from SAMHSA, it's every other year where coalitions and organizations across the country do some programming in their communities around underage drinking. So for this project, we had this great collaboration with our PTTC, the SAMHSA Region 1 office, and 4 coalitions here in Maine that were all signed up to participate in the Communities Talk program. And when we kind of got together to talk about how we could collaborate, we developed this idea of a program that you're going to watch today that features various speakers as well as some great videos from each of the coalition. So I'm really glad to have you all with us today to watch the content. So we're doing sort of a live premiere of the content, but then the content is going to be used by each of these communities separately as well. So a couple of the featured speakers we have come up, and a lot of this is pre-recorded. We have Sterling Campbell as one of our first keynote presenters, drummer with B-52s, and David Bowie, and other various acts as well. And then also Matt Bellace, who's a psychologist, comedian, who has some great content for us. And then, as I mentioned, 4 great videos from our coalitions. Before I hand it over to our collaborators at the SAMHSA Region 1 office, I did just want to acknowledge the 4 great coalitions we've worked with on this project, and maybe have each of them just kind of briefly say hi and introduce themselves and the area that they cover. So first, we'll start with Casco Bay CAN. And Beth, if you want to say hi and where you serve. There.
I'm going to say hi. I'm brand new. My name is Brittany Brewster. Poor Beth is on the phone call trying to get our email straightened out, but she is also here attending today.
Great, thank you. River Valley Healthy Communities Coalition.
Hi, I'm Ellie Burke. I'm the director of River Valley Healthy Communities Coalition. We have the River Valley Rising Coalition, that is a DFC grant, and we serve the greater River Valley region, Mexico Bumpers area. Thank you.
Great. Healthy Communities of the Capital Area.
Hi, it's Patricia, and I come from the Healthy Communities of the Capital Area in Southern Kennebec County. Sorry, my internet's not letting my picture come up. Thank you.
All right. Last but not least, be the influence.
We're having fun with technical difficulties today. I'm Laura Morris. I'm the project director of Be the Influence, which is in the Windham-Raymond area, and also my new project coordinator, Nathan LaPointe, you will see here as well.
Awesome. So yeah, so as I mentioned, we've worked with these 4 coalitions for over quite a few months to kind of develop what the content would look like. And as I mentioned, each of them will be using what you're going to see this afternoon in their communities. And we've had a great opportunity to work with them, and you're going to get to see some pretty cool videos from each of them as well. So with that, I want to hand it over to our esteemed Assistant Regional Administrator for Region 1 with SAMHSA, Taylor Brian Turner. I turn over the virtual stage to you.
Hey, thank you so very much. I have a little slide deck to share with you all. But first, I want to welcome everyone to the Communities Talk event. My name is Taylor Brian Turner from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration for the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. We're located in Boston, Massachusetts, and our mission is to reduce the impact of substance use and mental illness on America's communities. We are the national hosting agency for Communities Talk. So grateful that you could join us today. I'd like to share with you a lot of what Communities Talk is all about in a little amount of time so we can get to the good stuff. But today we've gathered, like Scott mentioned, some incredible voices with lived experience, as well as experts, peers, and local organizations who are dedicated to ensuring that our youth stay healthy and our communities stay vigilant. Communities Talk is a public engagement initiative. Next slide, please, Kristen. Thank you. Communities Talk is a public engagement initiative designed to support community-based efforts to increase awareness and educate about the risks and harms associated with underage drinking and substance use disorders from the ages of 12 to 25 years old. We seek to mobilize communities to take action at the local, state, and national levels, and we are here to tell you that prevention works. Scott did a great overview, so I'll give a little history of how Communities Talk came to be. Next slide, please. So since 2006, approximately 10,000 Communities Talk events and activities have been held across the country, increasing public awareness and supporting the prevention efforts of community-based organizations, or CBOs. In an incredible way, these activities have helped mobilize community action in support of evidence-based prevention practices. As of October 22nd, underage drinking prevention education teams completed its 2021 Communities Talk stipend cycle. So 1,000 organizations have registered for a planning stipend to lead an underage drinking prevention activity, as Scott suggested, and here we are today. And while at the same time also grappling the impact of COVID-19. We are grateful for the organizers for bringing us together today. If you look on the screen here, you'll see in New England a total of 87 community-based organizations and institutions of higher education received a planning stipend for 2021. So 87 in New England. So we're really proud of that. Next slide, please. Now let's talk about the impact that we're making across the country and why this is so important. The facts tell the story of success. Underage drinking and its consequences can be prevented. Between 2002 and 2017, drinking between 12 to 20-year-olds declined from 29% to 20%. All right, that's good. And then from 2015 to 2017, binge drinking and heavy alcohol use declined from 19% to 12% and 6% to 3%, respectively. However, in the latest release of SAMHSA National Survey on Drug Use and Health, NISDA data, that's the data that SAMHSA uses, it's voluntary data. The report highlights that in 2020, 50% of people aged 12 or older used alcohol in the past month were classified as binge drinkers. That's 138.5 million people, and 17.7 million people were classified as heavy drinkers. The percentage of people who were past month binge alcohol users was highest among young adults from 18 to 25 at 31.4% compared to 22.9% of adults aged 26 or older and 4.1% of adolescents aged 12 to 17. We have been in the trenches of COVID-19 since March 2019. The survey reveals that the pandemic adversely impacted the respondents' mental health in a negative way and shows the increased use of all substances. So we need your help in communities and on the ground to turn the tide. Your dedication is helping to save lives. Next slide, please. From a national lens, overdose prevention is our #1 priority. There are 5 in total. Enhancing access to suicide prevention is #2. Promoting children and youth behavioral health is #3. Integrating primary and behavioral health care is #4. And 5 is using performance measures, data, and evaluation to produce the best programming and training resources. We also have 4 cross-cutting principles: equity, prioritizing racial and social justice issues, increasing the workforce, a diverse and dedicated workforce, and of course, attracting young and talented leaders, recovery for all, and financing these priority areas. The Biden-Harris administration supports the full continuum of care to deal with the chronic nature of substance use disorders, and the newly announced HHS overdose prevention strategy builds on previous and ongoing work that focuses on expanding primary prevention, harm reduction, evidence-based treatment, and recovery support services for all Americans. Next slide, please, Kristen. So in addition to communities talks, SAMHSA and HHS is committed to embedding prevention across the continuum, as I mentioned, and we also focus on the prevention of suicide. We want to promote mental health, especially among our high-need populations showing early signs and related behavioral health problems. I'd like to share a few more of our associated programs with you. So parents and caregivers, if you're listening, we have Talk, They Hear You, an audiovisual application that helps guide adults through conversation with children to reduce underage drinking and other substance use among youth under age of 21. This app that you can download for your phone helps parents and caregivers learn how to turn common situations into opportunities to talk with their children about alcohol, drugs, and other substances. Our motto is be informed, get prepared, and take action. And seriously, I have a 17-year-old. It works for me. Please pull out your phone and download it if you can. It's highly interactive. The app features sample conversations, tips, and to keep the conversation going. You can also earn badges for practicing and having real-life conversations. So if you're into Pokemon Go, then this might be for you. And it's not just for parents. It's for everyone who cares about our kids. So if you are a crossing guard, a pizza shop owner, an educator, a coach, a lunch aide, we know that you are part of our village, and everyone's involvement will go a long way. We have Project Aware, AWARE stands for Advancing Wellness and Resilience in Education, and that's state education agencies that help to build or expand state and local government coordination to increase awareness of mental health issues among school-age youth. Additionally, funding for Project AWARE provides training for school personnel and other adults who interact with students and provides access to care for anyone who may have behavioral health issues, including family members with SMI and SED. I'm almost done. The new 988 dialing code for the National Suicide Prevention and Crisis Line will go live July 2022 and will serve as an important resource for connecting people to needed prevention, treatment, and recovery services. This line is different than 911 in that it directs you to community health organizations near you and does not involve law enforcement. In the meantime, you can always call 1-800-662-4357 for help, and you should put that number in your phone too. Okay, next slide, please, Kristen. Thank you. Last and certainly not least, SAMHSA's technology transfer centers respond to the needs of communities across the country. As Kristen mentioned, each center has a specialty of prevention, addiction, or mental health, and they offer webinars, podcasts, toolkits, newsletters, and other resources that you can download and use at no cost to you. So please check out their websites to make a request for a collaboration. Next slide, please. The New England Prevention Technology Transfer Center houses valuable resources for substance use prevention strategies and is located in our great state of Maine, and we thank them and our 4 Maine coalitions for their tireless support. Scott mentioned them, but I'm going to say their names again. River Valley Rising, Be the Influence, Gardiner Area Thrives, Alliance for Substance Abuse Prevention, and Casco Bay CAN. Thank you for your leadership and impassioned commitment to your community. If you don't know these folks, please take the time to get to know them. They are awesome. Tim Jean of the SAMHSA team, thank you all for making Communities Talk a reality for each of us today. We hope that you find some of the prevention techniques you'll hear today helpful. And whether that be playing an instrument or mastering a sport, yoga, or learning how to communicate better, we know that you have what it takes to be the change you want to see. So thank you so much for joining us today, and I'd like to turn it back over to Scott. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Taylor. So so the great information on the Community Talk program. It's been program's been around for quite a while, so we're really happy to be again all partnering together on today's program. And we will actually get to hear from each of the coalitions a little bit later on the other side of the product that we're going to unveil for you now. With that, I think, Kristen, we're going to go into our program. So as I mentioned, we have a few components to this. We have a couple of sort of keynote talks, one from Sterling Campbell, one from Matt Bellace, and then we have these short videos from each of the coalitions, very youth-driven videos. So I think we're going to start with a youth video and then go into the interview with Sterling. So Kristen, take it away. Oh, sorry, just one comment. So sorry. Wow. So we're going to go through the video, but then at the end, we're going to have some time for Q&A. So if you have any questions along the way that you think about, that you want to ask at the end, definitely take a note of those, and we'll have time for that at the end. So sorry, go ahead, Kristen.
No problem. Yeah, I'm going to start this. I've hit the optimize for sound buttons, but just put in the chat as we start it if the volume's okay, and I can toggle it. I know that's always the one thing that's hard to gauge on this end. So here we go.
We matter. I matter. I matter. Family. Self-respect. Friends.
Success at school.
In life.
Reaching my potential.
Life throws us curves.
War.
Illness. Anxiety. Exclusion and depression. Bullying.
COVID. Substance misuse.
Loss of a loved one. Poverty.
Abuse. I will
Protect the things I my values. There are healthy ways to cope. Swimming. Clearly.
Mindfulness. Talking to someone you trust. Hey guys, get a pen.
Listen to music. Decisions matter.
For this first part of our Communities Talk program, we're honored to be joined by drummer and professional musician Sterling Campbell. So first for our audience, I just wanted to share a little bit about your career. Sterling Campbell has been playing drums since he was 11, youngest of 6 boys in a household where everything from Stevie Wonder in Chicago to Elton John and Led Zeppelin could be heard and appreciated at any time. He graduated from the High School of Music and Art in Manhattan, and maintains his wide tastes stem primarily from home. Sterling began his professional career playing with a wide variety of artists, from singer-songwriters to fusion groups to punk bands at famous New York clubs such as CBGB, the Ritz, and the Peppermint Lounge. His big break came in 1986 when he supported Cyndi Lauper on her True Colors World Tour. From the late 80s to the early 90s, Campbell played in Duran Duran, the B-52s, and Soul Asylum, among others. Then in 1992, things came full circle when David Bowie recruited Sterling for his own band. He toured and recorded with Bowie up through the end of the Singer's Reality Tour in 2004, which covered 17 countries in 7 months. In 2007, Campbell rejoined the B-52s and has continued to tour, record with the band through recent years. Well, we're honored that you're here and willing to share your story with us for our Communities Talk program. So we wanted to share a little bit about your journey around substances and recovery.
I think, if I can explain it, especially in the early days, it was like, it's like this super high playing your music and everybody's excited and you're doing the stuff and you kind of on this high and you don't want the high to go away. So and you're offered a lot of opportunities that are not normal, especially like in the rock thing. That's why a lot of people in the business have, in the past, have gotten into trouble, because things are offered to you. And, like I said, you just want to keep it. You want to keep that energy going. It's hard to come down from it when you're playing in front of a lot of people. And, psychologically, your ego's going and, you just want it. You want more fuel and you kind of don't want it to stop. But everybody's different. It's not everybody. It's just certain people, it's like, people like to do a lot of, whatever, skiing and skating and do stuff that's action. It's got that same adrenaline to it. I was exposed to it, and every time it's kind of like a marriage, because it was like you finish doing the show, people all happy. I could be somewhere in Europe that I've never been. It's like, wow, this is cool, and you just don't want it to end. And being in that kind of environment, being in that headspace. And some people may have more of an addictive personality than others, and they don't know how to put the brakes on, And then, like, for a while, it was just like, let's keep going. It's okay. It's 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. Let's keep going with this.
So what for you do you think was sort of your tipping point, or made you realize, that sort of the pattern you're on, or the activities kind of, you're at a place where you needed to kind of change course with how things were going?
When I knew I couldn't stop it. And then it went on for like another 5 years. I couldn't, I wanted out, but I didn't know how to get out of it. And then slowly but surely I started making, kind of when I was speaking, we were talking about Soul Asylum. At some point I just said, okay, I have to go. I can't do this anymore. And it was a weird thing, because it just popped in my head to want to do it, and it was maybe just an instinctual thing. And then I just went back home with my tail between my legs. And then, for me personally, I found a practice called Falun Dafa. It's a spiritual practice from China, and that really kind of put me on the road to recovery.
So speaking sort of the road to recovery, so like, how did you ask for help? Are there other kind of services you seek?
I would say, like I said, 5 years prior to that, I wanted out. So, me finding this practice and I wanted to kind of defeat this. And I think that's really important. It can't be forced. It's got to be something you want to do. Because I didn't go into it, it's almost like a filtering. I came in, I went into it, and then I came out like, what, what happened? I never did drugs or I didn't even drink that much. It's just, it was a process that I went through. It's like,
so when you were, touring with Cyndi Lauper and Duran, knowing what you know now, is there any advice you would have given to your younger self back then of things you may have done differently?
I don't, it's hard because I think a lot of people may go into it from like maybe a peer pressure thing, everybody else is doing it around it. Like I did it because like some of my heroes were people who did drugs, and I feel like, okay, let me explore this. So there was always like, and also being a musician, like, wow, I'm doing my job, and it's just like, you kind of you're people applauding, and it's this cause and effect thing, and everything. Girls, it's like I said, just go on Netflix and watch. You don't have to be even a musician. The fashion thing, it's all those components playing a part. But it seems for a lot of people, because when I stopped doing it, it was interesting because I didn't stop going to bars because I didn't want to lose that. I shouldn't say I didn't want to lose it. It's just like once I made that jump and I started practicing Falun Dafa, and I was completely sure I'm done with this, and I didn't. It's not everybody who's recovering can do that, but in my case, I was able to, I would still go out and, not judge or anything like that because I understand it. I understand like going out and having a good time. But I don't know, like some people, they got to the point where they don't know how to have a good time without it. Because people would ask me, like, when, like everybody's like, yeah, we had a good gig, blah, blah, blah. What do you want to drink? I said, let me get sparkling water. And they look at me like, you don't drink? And I'm like, no. Like, and maybe, I don't know if that triggered something in them, like, can you have a good time? You got to ask that to yourself. Can you have a good time without drinking? It definitely, like, you got to definitely be brave. And yeah, I don't know if like, I wish I didn't do it. Like people like, oh, I don't regret. Some people say I don't regret it. It happened, but if I told myself, don't do it. It's really that simple.
Can you talk a little bit about how you follow your passion while kind of keeping this driving for health and wellness? You talked a little bit about the practice that you're engaged in.
Falun Dafa is definitely like, it's a practice out of the Buddhist school. And it's all about, there's exercises, but it's really mainly about self-reflecting and looking at all the things you do and all the choices you make and really trying to monitor yourself, and even especially on the psychological side, because all that stuff I think plays into it. The ego, everything. Like the ego could, for example, like people are drinking and say, come on, man, there's all that kind of peer pressure. You don't drink, all this stuff, and really have the bravery to just like, because you can get left out of it and be comfortable with that. So I feel like I've been like, and I'm still peeling it away, not for more of the addiction, but like, why did I even go into that in the first place? When you're asking yourself that question. So it could be peer pressure for a lot of people. I'm sure, like in colleges, it could be peer pressure, or not even colleges now, in high school. You have to be definitely sure, a bit more sure of yourself and really like, okay, I'd rather sacrifice maybe not being in that state of mind with people, and maybe I won't get invited out. I didn't know that. I didn't drink at all and do drugs at all. And all of a sudden, slowly but surely, like by like 93, I'm like, holy crap, I'm like, I'm doing everything.
When you found yourself ready for recovery, and I'm just kind of wondering about what did you kind of have like for support systems, or do you have folks that kind of help rally around you to help you?
It's a weird thing. People knew me. I was pretty much of a straight shooter. When I started doing drugs, I'm in Europe. Nobody knew me either before or after. I kept that pretty much hidden, like from my family, and only a couple of friends who saw me, they went like, "Whoa, what happened?" And everybody was kind of dispersed. I can't say how blessed I was, because it has to come from you. And I just felt so defeated for 5 years. Once I realized, like, oh snap, like this thing has got a hold over me. So a lot of it was even just like me being embarrassed. So I would do it when I wouldn't be around. I wasn't around my family that much anyway, because I was out touring, but I definitely it came from me once I got that feeling of just not wanting to do it anymore. I wasn't going to let that go for anything, because that it was so, I just felt like I was just walking through the freaking swamp of tar. Just everything was hard to try to break that. I like observing. I really like observing things, because as we see now how different the world is, I mentioned, things that are in circuit now. Like if you told me what New York was like in 1980s, 1973, it's all Netflix now. It's all this bygone place. So, and I've been very fortunate to see and gather a lot of things from that period, and it's still playing a cultural part, and there's still places where people find like, whoa, this happened. And that's what it's, this programs looking at the past, and like a big part of my past was like, where I became very cognitive of things is the 70s. Now that I know, everything that happens postnatally and cause and effect, and, as a musician, like I started off this way, and it all definitely is like what's in your head. And you can see, like, now we have TikTok, and now everybody wants to be a star. And everybody wants to get feedback and all this stuff, and it's almost like a drug in itself.
Yeah.
And even that, you become a TikTok star or whatever, and then you go out and there's a bar, and then you want to keep that high up, and you want to keep up your presence, and like, there's a lot to it where you really have to take stock of yourself, because it can go awry, and it does. And there's documentaries to prove it now about what's happening with social media. So you got a whole new level of anxiety and addictions. And it shows you, it could happen. It may not happen in alcohol, but it might happen in looking at your freaking computer.
Yeah.
And it's all kind of the same thing, and I think it's important, discipline is really important. Like, hey, can I have just one drink? Can I not drink at all?
Well,
that's something you have to really look deep in yourself. And like I said, nobody's going to do it for you.
Right.
Except for mom, dad, and family and friends and people close to you. And like, hey, man,
those kind of issues. I wonder if you any kind of last advice you'd have for those adults that are in the lives of young people, who are trying to help young people stay on kind of a healthy path, whether they're interested in music or other kind of pathways. Any kind of last words of wisdom or advice you'd give for those folks?
It's the world has changed so much, man. There's people don't want to like maybe rock the boat with young people. They don't want to come off being like what they said their parents were, I mean, I don't know how to because we're in a new age, and how everything is disseminating. Parenting, like you cannot use parenting techniques from back in the day, you know. You really have to have a little bit, you know, let's definitely listen to young people, man, because that's what you're going on. And how to have a conversation with young people is like, you definitely gotta know something about it, where they are. Because they're in a different place, we're in a different time period. There's socially, everything has changed. And I think it all plays a part. And I listen to people and I listen to, I try to listen to music. I'll check out the lyrics. Like, you know, and definitely get out like, well, when I was, when we were kids, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that was, we were lucky. If anything, if there was anything positive, then we were lucky because I think it's gotta be hard, even especially with the pandemic, like there's a lot, people, we had a whole period of when technology really kicked in, where it took away the whole thing of conversing and this, and people got into the phones, so you're dealing with the whole, and you just can't say, you guys just get out of your phones. And it's like, no, like it's already out of the box. So it's like figuring out how to talk to people, how to talk to younger people, because, like most of us, like your parents don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
I've been like, even as playing with the B-52s, and even though it's a younger thing, I get to go travel and go to places, and you can knock up against things once in a while. And I try to pay attention to like what's going on to a certain extent, because I don't have that. I like to be an adult too and watch, do things that are adulty, but I really try to hear them out first.
Yeah.
And see what picture they're painting and try to understand it, because it's different.
All right. Well, that's kind of last. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you on the road, hopefully somewhere in our region. And want to thank you again very much for being part of our Communities Talk program. We really appreciate you taking the time and all the great, your own journey and the great wisdom that you shared for our audience.
Communities Talk!
In the car. Before going to parties. When watching TV and something comes up.
So let's talk about underage drinking.
So let's talk.
So let's talk about underage drinking.
Together we can.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Communities Talk segment on alcohol and the brain. And we have here some guests with us. Very excited. Victoria and Henry, you can tell, taking time out of their busy lives. Victoria's got some important tweets to send out or Instagram posts or something else. And Henry is just like, look, I don't even know where I go to middle school. I've been on this place for 3 years. I'm not even sure what they call it. But they're here. They're here with us. And I love having them here because they're the reason why we do this work. So let me put up some slides to get started here and share my screen with you all. What you're about to see is what life looked like about 2 years ago for me, a guy who traveled around and would speak in front of large groups of students all wearing the same shirt for some reason. Like a cult or something. I don't know what that's about. But yeah, that was me speaking, kids shoulder to shoulder. I miss those days. You tell a joke, they love it, they can't get enough, they're eating it up. I miss that. I want those days back. My life, I can be totally honest with you, completely changed starting in March 2020, I can tell you that I used to travel around speaking to large groups, and within, it was about 24 to 48 hours, I went from traveling speaker guy to mediocre homeschool dad, just at the kitchen table, like with my kids trying to do their work. And but I remember bragging to my wife, like, in order for me to lose my business, they'd have to close every school in the country. And March 12th, 2020, I was like, oh my God. My wife was like, remember what you said? I was like, yes, I do. And if ever there was a time in my life where I thought to myself, geez, these are the moments that people probably drink alcohol, right? This is what they do. They reach out for it to try to cope with this incredible stressor. My whole life in movies, even in my personal life, I'd hear people talk about this. And alcohol is a powerful anxiolytic, which means it reduces anxiety. And here I was experiencing tremendous anxiety as a result of the pandemic. And for me, it was fear of losing my house, losing my income, as layered anxiety. And I had those thoughts like, maybe this is why people drink, but I don't drink for a bunch of different reasons. I don't do it. And I didn't start. And I'm glad I didn't, because honestly, you lay down so many of your habits when you're in high school and middle school, and how you cope with stress when you're young is somewhat predictive of how you're going to cope with it later on. So back to those slides, and I'll show you, what am I going to show you next? Yeah, there we go. So the age of your first drink matters, right? You start drinking at 14, get drunk, say, once a month, continue that behavior going forward. You have a nearly 50% chance of having alcohol problems in your life. When I say problems, I mean dependence. See that word down there? Dependence. I imagine when you're in middle school and high school, you're thinking about independence. And here's a drug that's going to increase your risk for dependence. So my message is just wait. You owe it to your brain to wait. If you wait till in your 20s, you reduce the risk down to about 10% of those who will have problems of dependence in their life. Now, let me ask Victoria and Henry, who do you think still has a problem in their 20s? They're still 10%. Who do you think those 10% are? Why are they still at risk in their 20s? Any ideas?
I guess just people who are really stressed. Like they have big stressors.
You could have gone through a lot of stressors, right? A lot of adverse situations. Anything else that puts them at risk, even as young adults? How about their genetic history, right? What do you know about the genetic predisposition for addiction? Anything?
I just know it exists.
Yeah.
So like people are just genetically more prone to that.
Yeah, some people are. It's like an allergy to some folks. So raise your hand and I'm going to raise mine along here. If you have a genetic history in your family, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, siblings, who've had problems with alcohol or other drugs at some point in their life. When I say problems, I mean dependence. So Henry's got the hand up, and I'm so glad that you know this, Henry. Here you are, 7th grade. You're aware of your history. That's great. Have you had family tell you the history of others? Yeah. Have you seen it for yourself, or you just been told about it? No, you've just been told about it. Well, both are good and important. I can't tell you how great it makes me feel when I hear from a student who says, hey, look, I don't drink because there's a history in my family and it's like an allergy to me. And that's fantastic to hear. And so the next question is, well, why? Like, why is it that some people are genetically predisposed to, let's say, become dependent on alcohol? And this next slide is might be pretty interesting for you. And it looks complicated, a lot of colors there. It's all kind of break it down. There's a theory on addiction, and they call it the dopamine hypothesis of addiction. So anybody know what dopamine is? Heard of that one?
Yeah.
I love the answer. Yeah. What is dopamine?
It's just the chemical in your brain. It gets released and it makes you feel good.
Yes, makes you feel good. Thank you, Victoria. It's a chemical that makes you feel good. So what this study did, and it's kind of ingenious, because the theory was, look, people who have addictions, be it to alcohol or other drugs, probably have less dopamine being released in a very specific part of their brain. It's called the ventral striatum. It's on the test. You might want to write this down. But anyone who studies the brain knows that the ventral striatum is connected to this pleasure network, right? So they wanted to look at that specific area of the brain and see how much dopamine gets released when the brain gets stimulated. So they gave what they called the healthy group, the people who don't have addiction in their history. They gave them a stimulant. It was like a drug, essentially, in a controlled situation. And they gave that same stimulant to people who had a history of alcohol dependence. They call it the alcohol group, or cocaine dependence, or methamphetamine dependence, or heroin dependence. And what you're looking at here is fascinating because what do you see? You see the gray, quote unquote, healthy group having a very strong reaction to the stimulant. And the drug groups are not. You look at the alcohol group in particular, you don't see a huge response from dopamine. And it's like, what does this tell you about alcohol dependence? So let me throw the question back to you. Victoria, Henry, what do you think this says about the brain of someone who's dependent on alcohol?
It just takes more for them to feel good.
Yes. Bingo, right? So they go to the party, right? And they have the first drink of alcohol. How do you predict their brain's going to respond? Is it going to light up like, woohoo, tons of dopamine, this is great? Or is it going to act like, I don't get it. It was like first drink done and I don't really feel anything.
Yeah, it's just not gonna really react as much. It'll take more.
Right. It'll take more. So they're more prone to having a second and a third and a fourth. And now maybe the brain lights up and they get it. They're like, oh, now I feel it. And so the next party, they're more apt to have 4 or 5 again. And that puts them on the road to dependence for sure. And this, again, the dopamine theory or dopamine hypothesis of addiction is sort of an idea, a concept in neuroscience that's been kicked around for the last several years. And it may help in treatment someday, but it really, I think, aids us in understanding how this all works. The next slide I'm going to show you is when people are acutely drunk, right? They go out and they've had too much to drink. What you're looking at here on the left is a brain with a blood alcohol content of 0. And then you go to moderately drunk at 0.05. And then the high group there, which is the legally drunk in every state in the U.S., 0.10. Now, answer me this. How much less blood flow do you think there is there in the frontal lobe of the brain from the 0% group to the 0.1% group? Any guesses? How much less red and yellow is there?
Significantly less.
Significantly, yes. About half, do you think?
Yeah.
Yep. Now, that's the frontal lobe of the brain during a decision-making test. People are in a machine that's measuring blood flow, and they have about half the blood flow in the frontal lobe while trying to make decisions. What do you think that's going to do to somebody's decision-making abilities?
It's going to be slower.
Yeah.
Going to take less things into account.
Absolutely. It's going to create havoc. And what I'm going to show you next is a clip from Saturday Night Live. We won't watch the whole thing because you get the gist pretty quickly, but it's basically the brain, the sober brain and the drunk brain. And it's a group of girls who are about to go out on Halloween, and you see the difference between the sober brain and the drunk brain. And I think you're really going to enjoy this. Yes, it was playing there. Can you hear it?
Yep.
Megan, you look so cute.
Oh, thanks. Janelle, will you fluff the back of my hair? I feel like it's getting flat.
Yeah. You guys, I love how we're keeping it so chill this year. So we're just grabbing dinner and then heading to Ryan's for a bit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You guys, let's do a selfie.
Oh, okay.
Observe their behavior.
Okay, ready?
Hi, y'all. This is going to be such a fun night. My credit card is coming and I don't have it. Who has it? Please, hurry up. I need to get pizza. Oh, pizza.
Stop sharing it there because I think you guys get the idea. But what did you see? Can you describe for me what it was like before they went out and then after?
Well, there's just it was just a lot of comparison. Like after they couldn't remember as well. Like that was pretty clear. They couldn't remember what happened before. They had terrible coordination.
For sure. Henry, what do you think of their emotions?
I feel like their emotions definitely, they were very like happy at the beginning and they were very negative at the end.
Yeah, so there was some anger there. They were fighting with their friends. Were there any tears?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
tears, right?
Messed up all their beautiful makeup.
Yeah, they cared so much about how they looked and what they're wearing, and then they're lying in the disgusting street. So the point is that any human being could render themselves like that if alcohol interferes with their frontal lobe functioning. And I like the clip. It's funny, but it's real, and you get a nice appreciation for it. Now, this study here that you're looking at was a longer term one they did on twins. Kind of amazing. They were looking at these twins from the time they were teenagers all the way into their 20s. One of the twins abused alcohol during that period of time, and the other one didn't. And what you're seeing is actually thinning of the gray matter in portions of the brain like the frontal lobe and the temporal lobe. So there were physical changes to the brain over time, and they used the twins as a sort of a control, right? So the twin that wasn't drinking, because their brains are so similar, everything looks so similar with twins, that was like the control group. And the fact that they saw changes in the brain over a period of 10 years was really fascinating to the scientists, because alcohol really is having an impact on brain development. So I'm just curious, Henry, Victoria, I mean, what's your reaction to that news? I don't know if it's the first time you've heard something like that or seen that kind of data, but how does it make you feel when you see the fact that alcohol could be changing, a teenager's brain?
Not surprised.
Yeah.
I kind of knew that, but it's not great.
How does it make you feel when, you hear maybe a classmate blow off, getting wasted or abusing alcohol is no big deal, having seen the evidence?
I think it's just sad. I'll just see that and then I guess it was their choice, but I don't know. I feel more sad than I do judgmental of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a sadness there. I don't understand why they didn't get the message. Maybe they did and they didn't believe it. Maybe alcohol is just so rewarding to them that they don't care. All of which are sad, right? Henry, how about you? Any reactions?
I feel like I feel the same way that Victoria does.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. A few more slides. And I think this one is one that is very much true. Alcohol suppresses respiration and causes death. And every year, we see articles about young people, college students, I think of all the time. There's alcohol overdoses on campuses and people die, but it's not something that's on the minds of young people, right? They're not thinking about this every day, and they don't think it's going to be them. So it's very hard to get this message across. In fact, I tend to try to focus more on here and now. So what is that decision-making impairment going to look like to you right now, rather than this, sort of extreme example of someone overdosing? Maybe it'll be you, maybe it won't, at a party weeks from now, that kind of thing. So I am someone who doesn't like to just present on, hey, alcohol is bad, here's what it does, good night. I like to offer a solution. And so for me, I wrote a book called A Better High, and it's all about the science of natural highs. And natural highs are just activities that change the brain chemistry and release dopamine in a way that's good for us, and it's good for your brain development. So here's some of my natural highs. I love getting outside, biking, performing, making people laugh, eating real food that comes from the ground. We got hikes in the woods and friends and team sports, all these things. But, humans are not the only ones who love a good natural high. This video was from the Smithsonian Zoo this past winter. and you're looking at a panda sledding down a hill on its back. I mean, to me, that says it all, right? Like, who wouldn't want to do this if they could? My favorite part is next. And maybe up in Maine, you can do this for more months than we can where I live in New Jersey. But it's a lot of fun. And the brain lights up when you're having a natural high. Look at the laughing brain and how much blood flow there is throughout. And here's the neat thing. There's no way you can watch like a hilarious comedian and then wake up the next day and be like, oh, that comedian was so funny, I'm hungover. Well, but why not though, right? Why not? You had a great time. And shouldn't you feel worse? No, the brain is all about balance. It's called homeostasis, trying to stay in balance. And so it's never going to have you experience a natural high and make you feel so bad the next day that you can't get up. But alcohol doesn't work like that. Alcohol forces your brain into this certain emotional state, and it depletes neurotransmitters and can make you feel awful and make you physically feel sick the next day. If you use enough, of course, over time, you're going to need to take the drug just to feel normal. What else? Look at music lighting up the brain, making us feel really good. There's certain types of songs that give us the chills, where it just takes us to another place. Do either one of you have a song that gives you the chills?
Yeah. You should hear what we're doing in Chamber Singers right now. It's kind of funny. It's not a normal song. Little scary.
Scary song. It's about getting close to Halloween, right?
Yeah, it's called Fire. So.
That's cool. How about you, Henry? You have a song that gives you the chills?
I like indie rock kind of music.
Yeah.
Right now my favorite song is Money by the Drums.
I have to listen to that one. I don't know that one. You know, so many people will take alcohol, for example, to sort of forget their worries, right? They had a hard day. You hear that all the time. I had a tough day. Give me a drink. Well, music can play that role of taking you to another place. And even if you know what you're doing, you're purposely playing the song to get out of your head for a while, it still works. That's the beauty of it. Exercise, too, has a profound impact on your brain. It actually improves your memory by increasing a brain structure, the volume of the brain structure called the hippocampus. Exercise reduces stress while increasing happiness scores, all the things that are promised by so many different drugs, but yet exercise does it and has tremendous benefit for you, partly because if you exercise outside, you're in nature. Nature calms the mind. You go for a walk in the woods for 90 minutes, and you're actually going to reduce a hormone called cortisol in your bloodstream. Cortisol is a stress hormone. You reduce that, less stress. Pretty sweet. So outdoors, you should know there's water, there's wind, there's bird sounds. All these things are very calming to our nervous system. And if you're looking to reduce anxiety, sure, you could turn to alcohol, and for a short period of time, it may reduce that anxiety, but you're going to notice it flood back to you when the alcohol leaves your system. But you go for the hike outside for 90 minutes, it might not be as intense a reduction. It might take a little while to feel better, but you're going to come back. You're going to feel more positive, feel less anxious. All these are tremendous things. And so my recommendations are try to move around for your mood. I honestly, I exercise more for my mental health these days than my cardiovascular health. Afternoon is when I meditate to be more resilient, and the evening is when I cook and eat and try to be social. Do calls like this, Zoom calls, have a few laughs. And I want to thank you so much for being a part of this. And I'll end by just saying, I love to surf. I surfed in Maine. I love it. But surfing on the East Coast taught me the most beautiful waves. They come from the biggest storms. And I want anyone watching this to know that the storms of life are going to hit us. But ultimately, if you handle them on life's terms, right? You don't rush to some chemical to cope, but you deal with them head on. It's going to be hard for a bit, but eventually there's this energy that's produced, right? This opportunity to take advantage of that energy from that disappointment, from that pain, that loss, that failure, and the beautiful waves will follow.
Why I don't do drugs is because I'm a student athlete. One reason you shouldn't do drugs is because it could wreck your life.
The reason why you should not do drugs is because it messes with your mental health and your physical health.
Hello, my name is Brittany, and I don't use drugs because they can become very addicting and possibly ruin your future. Instead, choose you.
I'm here to tell you why you should not do drugs. 1, everyone knows this, but they're really bad for you. They can mess with your brain and make you do things that you don't really usually do. And I would never personally do drugs because I have 2 beautiful nieces that I would not want to see me be out of my mind. I wouldn't want to ruin my life and not be able to see them anymore. So that's just my reason, but there's lots of other reasons why you should not do them, so choose you.
Why you shouldn't do drugs. Drugs are bad. Drugs lead to bad things, and nobody wants to push Narcan in you when you overdose.
The reason why I don't do drugs is because there have been so much people in my family or people that I know that have lost their lives to this one thing that they did that they didn't even mean to be addicted to, and it killed them. And I don't want that for myself. I want to have a full life. I want to go out and do all these things. I don't want to die young. I just want to live my life to the fullest. And I don't want one thing to ruin it. So choose you.
Don't do drugs. I know you must be saying to yourself, hey, what does this bozo know about drugs? And admittedly, not much. But have you ever seen a cat do drugs? Probably not. Anyways, choose you. Have a great day.
All right. Well, thank you. So I hope that was informative. And so we are, after this broadcast, we're also going to make the content, as I mentioned, available to our participating coalitions, but we will also work on having it posted to our PTT site as well, so others can benefit from the content as well. So we're going to open it if anyone has any questions in the audience, but I do have a couple of questions for our coalitions because I would love to hear from them to share a little bit more about what they are each doing in the area of underage drinking prevention in their communities. So the first question I have, and I'll call on each of the coalitions individually, is if you could please share with the audience your prevention programs and initiatives for addressing underage drinking in your communities. And Beth or Brittany, Casco Bay CAN, you want to go first?
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, so some of the programs we have is Responsible Beverage Seller Server, and we do that in collaboration with our liquor licensees and our law enforcement as well. And it's a training for seller servers just on compliance and the Maine state laws and making sure that they check IDs and don't serve to anyone underage. We also do a state project. It's Project Sticker Shock, and we do that twice a year, once in May and once in December. And we do that as it aligns with the holidays and as well as prom and graduation time. And we involve our schools, youth, law enforcement, and local businesses like perhaps the local Hannaford, the Cumberland Farms gas station, any of those localities that have alcohol. And stickers, awareness stickers, are put on the alcohol packaging, making the buyer aware not to provide alcohol to a minor and the state laws. Also, we develop videos with our youth, and we have a whole bunch of resources on our website, and just try to be effective in our community. So,
Great. Thank you. How about Pat, HCC? Yeah, easy for me to say, HCCCA. Do you want to go next?
Sure. Sorry, my camera's still not working. We have just wrapped up a STOP grant, which concentrates on underage drinking in Southern Kennebec County, which supports law enforcement and education around youth alcohol prevention, and work closely with the law enforcement in the area around promoting Parents Who Host Lose the Most, and support our SROs, and they are really good at educating parents, and they actually just put out brand new signs recently because of reports of underage drinking after sports events. And also we were doing tips training, actually not the responsible beverage server training, before COVID. And since COVID, it has been rather difficult to have in-person trainings, but that will happen again, hopefully, maybe next year once this is all over with. But yeah, that's what we're doing right now. And also, of course, promoting 21 and making sure that people are carding.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And actually, for folks in our audience, if you're with the coalition and you're doing some underage drinking work in your communities, feel free to throw that in the chat. We'd love to learn about what you all are doing as well. How about Laura Morris, and Nathan, Be Influence? You want to share what you're doing?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm going to piggyback on some of the things that they're doing. We also do the sticker shock and the compliance checks and the responsible beverage training, some tips training. But we really work a lot on natural highs, very similar to what Matt's talking about. So getting to the root of everything, no matter the substance, and alcohol is part of that. So building resiliency and coping skills through a lot of education, an arts and prevention series where we're really seeing huge differences in terms of alternatives to drinking. We do media campaigns, The Talk They Hear You, as well as a lot of positive messaging around prom. We have PSA contests. We participate in Project Graduation by providing swag bags and entertainment and that type of thing. Working on overcoming stigma. We're very, very fortunate to have fantastic health teachers in our community. So we couple a lot of their efforts already and just help them in any way to supplement their education with things on kind of that building resiliency. We did a screening of If They Had Known, which is about alcohol and mixing opiates together to some of the health classes. And we do a lot of the kind of brain science as well. I'm a certified instructor for DEEP, or Prime for Life curriculum, which is really a fantastic venue for using in lots of different ways. And we do the social hosting laws. We refer to the CERT program, so it can be more restorative practice, and really building, again, on mental health. So we did a mental health summit along with PTTC this year, in kind of working on everything. And then where are the resources? So we brought in an Alateen group and are always trying to get resources out any which way we can to parents, PTAs, schools, athletic nights, blah, blah, blah. I think everybody's kind of doing the same things.
All right. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Allie, River Valley, you want to go next? Allie, are you able? No? Okay. Okay, that's all right. Feel free to put that in the chat if you want, what you're doing in River Valley. We're having some tech issues there, I think. So the last question, and then we'll open up for the audience, is so we've got to see some really great videos from each of your coalition's youth-driven videos. Want to see if you want to share a little bit more about what you're doing around engaging youth in your underage drinking or any other kind of prevention initiatives. We can kind of go in the same order. So Beth, you want to go first from Casco Bay CAN?
Sure. We collaborate with the schools and a lot of the graphic design classes. We have the students, we work with the students on designing our posters and our messaging that we get out into the community, as well as videos. There's a lot of peer-to-peer education, and they also, we worked with our upperclassmen to put together a book called Moment the Bell Rings, and it's stories from youth on dealing with stress management in school and just any number of things, including substances. And it's all for rising freshmen coming in. And it's just a helpful book, and it's on our website. We have an audio and a version of it as well, so you can just listen to it. It's interactive as well. And also with our students, we have Department of Education in Maine requires a 45-minute lesson once a year in December, and we have youth help put those games and informational videos together, and they roll those out to their peers. So those are some of the things that we do to engage youth directly.
Some great stuff. Thank you for sharing. Pat, HECA, what are you doing to engage youth in your work?
In our community, we have the Boys and Girls Club, and those kiddos just underwent restorative practices training, as well as some social norming messaging training with Joanne and Kevin, our Mayan representative. And those kiddos have just got done completing some posters that we'll be sharing with the community. Also, our Interact Rotary youth group is very strong around community work. So we're working with them around building resiliency and doing other activities. And they are a very busy club. They're the ones who provide the food pantry for the high school, as well as they did do a video for us, but were not able to get it to us in time. So they are going to be working on some additional PSAs for their drama club, as well as participating in focus groups moving forward in February and March, most likely. And we also worked with our GSDA on a Pride project, which focused on building resiliency for the LGBT kids. And that'll be moving forward this year, hopefully throughout Kennebec County, doing a big Pride project around that. So that's what we're doing right now.
All right. Thank you. Laura, next, Be the Influence.
Yeah, we do a lot of peer-to-peer as well. Education of high schoolers going down to middle schoolers and teaching on all substances, but also some heavy interaction with theater, dance. Nathan just led a fantastic hip hop class with the alternative high school. But a lot of the 8th graders then do theatrical programs down to the elementary school on bullying, respectful behavior as a start to coping and that type of thing. We like to we believe in student voices. So we brought like 65 students before COVID to the Capitol to talk about vaping. And believe me, they knew more than the legislators. Very exciting. And we do a project every year called Taking Back Maine's Future. It's opiate driven, and so it's based on the Back to the Future theme, but we have 130 7th graders that go through a program where within the classroom they learn about opiates in your brain and the science of it, but also what would Maine's future be like with the opiate crisis, what would be like without. And so they are able to then showcase to parents, to 500 people come through, kind of what our future is if we stay within the crisis, and they really understand what opiates do, which is wonderful. The youth voices, again, we were part of the Flavors to It Kids campaign, but I'm very proud of Victoria and Henry, who were also in Matt Bellas's video. We just think, why listen to anybody else? We did with other DFCs, Beth's being one of it, put together a youth summit, SOPO Unite and Westbrook Partners Prevention. And so we're just trying to get youth to do their own work, coming up with their own spiffs and all that. The PSA contests go on. We try to get youth in the community, so Summerfest parades and staying in the game, dodgeball games, and We do a program called Family Fun Fitness and Film Festival, and we always want youth there helping us along the way. So, yeah, we just try to keep them busy.
All right. Thank you very much. Allie, I don't know if you're able to. Oh, your tech's working. Great. Go ahead if you want to.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Feel free to answer both questions if you want.
Okay, so I'll jump on number one quickly. We do pretty much what everybody else mentioned, but we also do a lot around the Red Ribbon Week, which is the National Drug Awareness Week. We are in the schools working with our students and our health teachers and doing in the radio ads and social media posts around National Drug Awareness. And the other thing is that we do a lot with our law enforcement around compliance checks and shoulder taps. So every year, our police officers go in and try to buy alcohol, looking under the age 21, and it's been really consistent. And when there's a violation in one of the stores, we work with those stores to kind of make sure that they are following the guidelines around the 21. So in terms of our youth, we have a youth group called Positive Cougar Club that we work with over in one of our middle schools. And they do a lot around positive messaging and working with the schools to change the climate and talk about bullying and how to be kind and be thankful. We just did a project around the Yellow Tulip Project. So we're looking forward to the spring when the tulips will bloom. And the other thing that we often do is we work with our junior May grads. And we have 2 programs at 2 of our school districts, where we work with them, and they're actually the one that created the video that got cut out at the end there a little bit with the audio, but they were awesome in implementing the messaging that we are trying to work on in the schools. So without them, I think we would be struggling a little bit in the schools right now. So
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So a lot of great work happening with all these coalitions, and I see folks are sharing in the chat what they're doing. So thank you for that and all the work that you're all doing in your communities to address underage drinking. A lot of great work going on, and of course, being the PTTC, would be remiss if I didn't sort of plug that if there's anything that we can do, if you're a prevention professional in New England, needs any training, technical assistance around underage drinking or any other kind of prevention initiative, definitely to be in touch with us, and that let us know how we can help what you're doing with any training or technical assistance. With that, did we have any questions from the audience? Anyone any questions either from any of the coalition members or anyone on the panel as you were watching the presentation? Great comments, and like I said, we will be working on posting content later. Definitely have to give a big shout out to Kristen Erickson on our team, who's our tech guru, who did all the hard work to piece all of this together. So big shout out to her for all the great work on this and leading all of us and pulling all this great work together. So like I said, it's been a long project, but a lot of great collaboration, and we're very happy to have been able to work together. First film premiere, yes. This is the virtual red carpet here, such that it is. I don't see any other questions. Taylor or Tim, do you have any last words you wanted to share with our audience? Let's put you on the spot.
I can go. Thanks, Scott. I just want to, give a thanks to everybody involved. This was such a great event, and I really hope the coalitions, take the snippets from the video and from this event and really find use for their parts throughout the community. I think this is going to be really helpful. Just one of my favorite parts was Matt Bellace. I really thought that he was so engaging and, keeping it light, but also getting to the point. And, I just really want to thank everybody for coming and, who all helped make this possible, and Kristen, Scott, and the team, and everybody from the coalitions that really helped make this possible. So thanks again from the SAMHSA New England Regional Office.
All right. Excellent. I did see one question about signing up. So are you talking about if the question is about communities talk, I think the next period will be for 2023, right? That'll be the next one, I imagine. I mean, there's a little bit.
As far as I understand it, they're 2-year cycles, and I believe the applications will probably start in the middle year. So you'll be able to go on SAMHSA's website, and I believe they have it's stopalcoholabuse.org, and you'll be able to fill out an application as a coalition, and you'll be given the opportunity to get one of those stipends.
Excellent. Well, I think one last bit of housekeeping is we probably need to put in the GIPRA link. So Kristen will put that in. And so for all of our PTTC events, we have a very short survey for SAMHSA. Your feedback is very helpful for these and future events. So if you can take just a few minutes to, it's pretty short as evaluations go, to fill it out, that would be super, super great. And with that, I think we're just about done. Kristen, do you have any last housekeeping pieces?
No. The only other thing, I just put the link in there in the chat, and I can also email that to people. If we will be, the video link is not yet posted through the PTTC website, but we will be sharing it on our website, the New England PTTC. So if you wanted to share this in your own communities or with your coalitions, this video will be available for that. So I'll email that link out to everyone who participated today, as well as our coalitions here, so that you'll have access to that. So that's the last thing that I have.
All right. Well, thank you all for spending part of your afternoon with us. Again, hope this was helpful, and look out for the materials so you can use these in your community. And again, thank you for all that you're doing, everything you're doing in the world of prevention. So and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks for coming.
Bye, everyone.